with a little film clip. So as soon as that's ready, we're going to get it up on the screen. And this is a clip from Vishal's first film, Shakespeare trilogy, Maqbool. Okay, so until you get the...
من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. दुआ कीजिए या अल्लाह पाक जो कुरान शरीफ पढ़ा गया उसका सवाब जहांगीर खान साहब की रूह को पहुँचे.
अल्लाह ताला अब्बा जी की रूह को सुकून पहुँचाए और उन्हें जन्नत नसीब करे. आमीन.
या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनु इस्तईनु बिस्सब्रि वस्सलाह इन्नल्लाहा मअस साबिरीन. या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनु इस्तईनु बिस्सब्रि वस्सलाह इन्नल्लाहा मअस साबिरीन. या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनु इस्तईनु बिस्सब्रि वस्सलाह इन्नल्लाहा मअस साबिरीन. या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनु इस्तईनु बिस्सब्रि वस्सलाह इन्नल्लाहा मअस साबिरीन. या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनु इस्तईनु बिस्सब्रि वस्सलाह इन्नल्लाहा मअस साबिरीन. या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनु इस्तईनु बिस्सब्रि वस्सलाह.
मियां, काली के मंदिर पे
माता के सामने
जिंदा था, लेकिन अस्पताल पहुंचते पहुंचते
रास्ते भर बुदबुदाता रहा. हवेली पे चल, हवेली पे चल.
कौन था?
कौन था? कौन होगा? अरे काकी,
गुड्डू, नरक में भी जगह नहीं मिलेगी कुतरा को.
क्या है? उसको लेके जाओ इसको यहाँ से. जिंदा उठा. पुलिस बहुत खुल रहा है. इसको लेके जाओ यहाँ से. इसको लेके क्यों आया? हटाओ उसको यहाँ से. अरे
मियाँ, मियाँ, मर गया है काका. मर चुका है वो.
हाँ?
मर चुका है काका. मियाँ, मियाँ, मर चुका है काका. मियाँ.
الناس إله الناس.
Right, so what you just saw is a clip from the devastating operatic cinematic masterpiece that is Maqbool, a translation of Shakespeare's Macbeth by Vishal, who's taken that Shakespeare and understood him in a way that we very rarely see on cinema. And I don't think since they've translated King Lear to Russia or Kurosawa did Throne of Blood, have we seen a film that takes that thematic nature of Shakespeare and makes it so alive on the screen. And in this scene, in the Shakespeare, you'll be having a huge banquet. And instead here we have quite a quiet scene where terror really speaks very loudly through a simple gesture of the gaze. So I wanted to ask you, what was it about the language that you distilled down to decide on how you were going to make that scene?
Yeah, because when I look at this scene, there's so many memories come back. I think we shot this film 14 years back in 2003. And particularly this scene, because this is one of the most crucial scenes in Macbeth also, where Banquo's ghost comes to haunt Macbeth. And me and my co-writer Abbas Tairwala, we had written this. This scene was written differently in original first draft, or the script, the shooting draft. So it was that he gets the news on the phone that Kaka has been killed and Guddu, his son, has killed Kaka, Banco. And then he freaks out over the phone and, so the scene was written like that. When, and I was on the shoot, and this scene always bothered me that to use this device over the phone, and it is such a dramatic scene, we should see it happening, in without the gadgets. So I rewrote this scene on set. There was a break, and I rewrote this scene, and I sent it back to Abbas. And Abbas' reaction was very, very dramatic. He said he didn't like it at all. He said that it's like a cabaret in the film you are doing. It's like an item number you are doing in the film. It's completely out of sync from the rest of the tone of the film. And since he was my co-writer, I took him seriously and I thought about it. But again, when I read both the scenes together, I found that the version I am saying is more dramatic. And the only one logic problem was there in my scene, which that why these cops, they bring the dead body to his house first before taking it to the police station. And this was a logic issue in my head. Though nobody notices, nobody has ever told me that there was a logic issue. So, but as a writer, it was within me that which was eating me, that this is something illogical. But still, I wanted to have this drama, so I called up Guldar Saab, and I narrated him both the scenes. And so he said, of course, where they bring the dead body is more dramatic. So I told him that, but this is logic problem. So he told me only when you are telling me, so I am finding it. And he told me a beautiful thing, that in cinema, emotion is stronger than logic. So go with your emotion. And I'll take a little more time for, because this is a very important scene for me. So I shared that my draft with all the actors. Irfan, Tabu, Nasir Bhai, Omji, Pankaj, though Pankaj was not there in the scene. So, and I told them Abbas's reaction also. So, and slowly everyone started siding with Abbas's reaction, कि maybe he's right, maybe he's right. And I felt so alone and lonely, but still there's something that was convincing me inside. And then I spoke to Guldar Saab, and next morning we were shooting the scene, so I told everyone, ki, okay, let's do one thing. Let's shoot it both ways. And then we can decide it later on the edit machine. And when we'll see it in the flow, we'll know that which one works better. So they agreed. And I said, because since I'm the director, so I shoot my version first. And the version you like, I'll shoot later. So it took like 4 hours. We started around 9 o'clock. By 1 o'clock, we finished my scene. And by that time, everyone realized, because of way Irfan performed in this. And it was so spontaneous, we didn't plan anything. And because I just told Irfan that let's not rehearse this scene. Let's just do it, because you be in the moment and you freak out the way you think that your character should. So by the time we finished the scene, everyone was very happy and convinced, and then post-lunch I said, now let's shoot the other version. So they said, do you really need to? So I said, yes, I really need to. I want you to go through the pain, because I have been going through the pain for last 3 days. So I really want, and we shot it, and then because in all fear, maybe that would have worked better, but that didn't.
I want to pick up on 3 things that you said there, Vishal, because you've told us a lot about the craft, but the revelations that you've given us have to do with being alone and pain and feeling emotion, and that emotion being so important to the way that you work. And I think that takes us quite nicely into our next clip, which today of all days is something really important that we should see. Our second clip is from Heather, which is Hamlet, and it's set in Kashmir.
दो चेहरे हैं आपके मौजूद, ये बाएं वाला मासूम है और ये दाएं वाला चोर।
तुझे बहकाया है हैदर। डॉक्टर साहब की मौत से हमारा कोई वास्ता नहीं।
माँ जब झूठ बोले ना नहीं अच्छी लगती। अबू जी की कब्र के फूल सूखे भी नहीं थे और आपने खुर्रम के साथ घर बसा लिया। सब जानते हैं मुझे, आपने और खुर्रम ने मिलकर अबू जी का कत्ल किया।
झूठ है ये हैदर।
मुझे इखलाक उस रात हमारे घर में छुपा था, ये बात सिर्फ आप जानती थी। फौज का मुखबिर खुर्रम था और खुर्रम की मुखबिर आप। अरे आप घर में हैं? फिर ये आसमान में कौन है?
खुर्रम, बहुत डर लग रहा है मुझे।
क्या हुआ?
हिलाल आज इखलाक को कर लिया है।
इखलाक? लतीफ?
मैं नहीं जानती थी कि खुर्रम फौज का मुखबिर है। डॉक्टर साहब की मौत नहीं चाही थी मैंने, कभी नहीं। उनके लिए मेरे दिल में जहर नहीं था।
और खुर्रम के लिए? खुर्रम के लिए क्या था?
एक मिनट रुको रुको रुको, गाड़ी रोको।
बहुत इंतजार करूंगा मैं मौजे आपके दोबारा बेवा होने का।
चलो, एक आखिरी एहसान करेगा मुझ पे? बहुत मनहूस पेशानी है मेरी। दाग दे।
आपकी जिंदगी है, आपकी सजा है मौजे।
So what we have here is a kind of unfolding of grief and trauma and brokenness in a house in Kashmir, and it was shot in the snow. But it's a film which always makes me feel broken inside, not least because it's dedicated to your own father, and it's a story about a boy in search of what happened to his father in this political situation. Do you want to tell us a bit about the personal story behind the film?
Yeah, I never talked about it because placing it in Kashmir became such a big issue, and to make this film was also a very personal thing for me. Besides the fact that I think that as filmmakers, we have done injustice to Kashmir. We had not done the enough real films regarding that conflict, the pain that is happening over there, and I'm not saying who is right, who is wrong, but the basic human condition is very, very, very poor, pathetic. when I read Basharat Pir's novel, that book, The Curfewed Nights, it really startled me, and that's the time I decided to put Hamlet in Kashmir. But more than putting it in Kashmir was my personal thing for my father. I lost my father when I was very young, 19 years old, and in a very, very tragic, strange circumstances, which I have not spoken about it publicly ever. We were living in a rented house in Meerut, and our landlord was a lawyer, and his father was a judge. And he wanted us to vacate the house. My father agreed, and then they did some case where he was the judge or somewhere. They brought out some court order, and one morning that lawyer came with like 20 goons and put the whole house on the roads. And my father died on the road of cardiac arrest. And that remained with me. Earlier when I used to say this, I used to, there used to be lump in my throat. Now I can look back at as, okay, it happened to somebody 30, 40 years back. So that pain, I could never deal with that pain. And this was the chance for me for my catharsis. And when that Hamlet Shahid comes back to the broken house, when the house is blown by the army, and when he comes back, that's where I think my catharsis happened, and I came out of this pain. So it was a very, very personal journey for me, and I was looking for a film which I could dedicate to my father. So this was the film, and yeah.
We have a lot in common in this circumstance because I lost my mother when I was 28, and I very rarely speak about that publicly. She was the light of my life, and my novel is dedicated to her in much the same way. And in the story, which is based on King Lear, the King Lear is in this broken house in Kashmir, a very similar house to the one that we've just seen. And it's a story about the father and his daughter. He's imagining her, and he's sitting in this house, and he's going mad with the trauma that he's experienced. But the backstory is that his wife died in that house. So for me, I had a similar experience, and I want to share a little reading of that with you. My name is Devraj. Mine is a simple story. Come closer if you can. The day Ranjit's boy came home from America, I watched him pick about the place, look into the gardens, the sports ground, and the stone yard. It was a time fit for kings. What a beautiful place that was. Months have passed since that hot time. Now, in the death days of autumn, I find myself in Kashmir, the land of milk and honey. Ah, Srinagar, Sringari, city of wealth. The Emperor Ashoka named it thus. Life is good. I have brought Sita with me to open my new hotel. The Kashmir Company is my most beautiful property. It sits on a hilltop waiting for us. We will go there soon. Sita wanted to see this old house first, and though I once swore I would never come back here, I cannot say no to my daughter. So we find ourselves wandering through these 5 stories of broken, rotting wood. I can sense the Jhelum, mud-coloured and sluggish below, a snake disguised as a river, changing directions as it wills. There used to be a jetty where vendors would tie their boats and sell cut-price saffron, tea, bootleg cigarettes. Now the stench of stagnant water rises up. The wooden house is falling down into its own reflection. It's very dirty all around. Somewhere outside, the city goes about its business, wrapped in shawls against the biting cold. Here the market, there the shrine. The tulip fields are fallow, waiting for spring, while bees make honey and reeds make boats, and the world keeps turning, turning. Simplicity is life on the water, no fixed earth. I cannot remember the last time I was here. These days, I have to work to catch the exact moment, the begetting of forgetting. Forgetting is always there, a slippery fish, blind with teeth. Silently, it gapes and nibbles. Sita, She does not answer. Dust floats around the place, for there has been a kerfuffle. There is a crater in this floor, and I can see through to the next. My young manservant is down there, lying on his front. His neck is twisted at such a strange angle. I think he must have fallen and be dead. Maybe Sita went down to fetch the tea. No, of course, it's not possible. Now I am getting confused. Confusion, the bastard half-brother of chaos. Chaos, the torture instrument of forgetting. Where did she go? For a while, she was asleep here, and then she ran off. She loves to play hide and seek, catch, catch. Now is not the time, I told her, for I am telling my story, and mine is from the heart. It is the most important. Through all the ages of my life, the best, the most learned men have told me this. Nevertheless, I have learned that all should be judged by their speech acts. So here we are, talking in circles, on floorboards, threatening to crack.
Beautiful. Lovely. And I want to ask you a few questions also, Preeti, now. One thing I think you should do, that you should summarize that, because it's a beautiful setting of King Lear in contemporary Delhi. And you should just give us like a short synopsis, so we all are on the same page before I come to my next question to you.
Okay. So the story of King Lear, for those of you who don't know it, is the story of a father who is the king of a sort of ancient Britain. And he has 3 daughters. And the play opens with him at age sort of 80 or thereabouts, asking his daughters to tell them each in turn how much they love him. And in exchange, he's going to divide his country between them as part of their dowry. Now, for anyone here on such a day, we can see that partition narrative, and it's linked to these women's bodies as metaphors for the land, is the big bombshell that sort of unravels his mind. And what happens next forms the 3 hours and a half of the play, but it ends in a civil war, which is why my story is set in Kashmir. And We That Are Young, the novel, it's told from the point of view of 5 young people, which is supposed to really speak to the energy of India today.
Lovely, lovely setting. So you tell me that you live in London, you are born in UK. Then how could you get the details of a Delhi business and this life so correctly? I have read this novel, it's so beautiful, it's so nuanced. So I was amazed because I met Preeti in London, I think 2 years back. And I could never imagine that, she can get the nuances so well of a Delhi family. So could you tell us the secret, that how did you get this nuances so beautiful?
I think one of the secrets is to be like you are, just very low key as a person, and then you can get into all sorts of situations that no one really expects you to be in, but once you're in them, no one takes any notice of you. So you can find yourself into high and mighty parties, or you can find yourself in slum areas, or you can go into media offices, and you just have to use your journalistic skills and your personal skills just to ask people questions and listen to them talk about their lives, gather those little details that bring something to life. And that's the kind of field research that I did, all the way from, intricate Delhi, where I have been coming since I was a child because of my mother, right to months spent in Kashmir.
And how much is your personal experiences you have exploited in this book?
Well, I wanted to ask you that question too. I mean, every tiny detail of the characters, their memories, the things they love, the things they hate, the worst impulses they have, I think I have all of those, and maybe some of the best ones too, I hope.
And how much time did you take to do this? How long was the process of this?
The first draft was finished in 2013. It didn't find a publisher until 2016, when it was sold to a very small independent publisher in the UK. And in that time, the whole world has changed. And the things that I could see happening that I put into the book, the rise of the right wing and a sort of toxic masculinity, which is now giving way to more resistance in the Me Too movement. Some of those things I sort of saw coming when I was writing.
Yeah. So, do we want to go to the next clip or?
Well, the thing is that because both of us have work in Kashmir, what I really wanted to ask you, I mean, as a writer and I was doing research, it was easy for me to fly sort of under the radar a little bit, but what was it like shooting this film on the ground, and what kind of experiences did you have in these broken houses, in these very cold conditions?
More than the cold, it was, the logistics of it. And the people of Kashmir, they actually love Bollywood. But they are very angry also because we have been just using, the first time when I met Chief Minister Mr. Abdullah. So he told me, I hope you won't do that, otherwise the Bollywood represents us with a Firan and AK-47. So I told him that, I am trying to go beyond that. I am really trying to see this film from inside out. Otherwise, we have been doing it, either a character of a journalist goes to Kashmir and from his or her point of view, or an army officer, or someone goes from outside and looks at Kashmir. What I was trying to looking from inside, that how do they look at the world and this conflict. So, but since there was no precedent and no one had done that before, so the problems were really, and more than us, the security forces were more concerned about us. We were shooting in downtown, we shot in Janakadal Bridge and all those places. We could shoot. Actually, the security forces used to tell us that how much time will you take? Like on that where Shahid meets Irfan on that pull, the first time he goes to meet. That's a very iconic place in Kashmir, Zainakadal Bridge. So I asked them that I want to shoot over there, and he said it's impossible. So somehow, I cajoled him and did something, and he said, okay, I'll give you 1 hour. And the Kashmir, we were shooting in, that's called, the 40 days are the most, the cold time. It's called something, I'm forgetting what it is called, that period of that 40 days. So he said that it's so cold and Kashmiris are so lazy that they don't get up before 11 o'clock. So you finish your shooting by 9:30 and I give you 2 hours. So we went over there like 6 o'clock in the morning, we started shooting, and by 9:30, nobody came and there was no crowd. Otherwise, generally, there used to be crowd, a lot of crowd on other locations. So then we got a little more courage and we said we will carry on. And then we carried on till 11:30, and suddenly there were like 1,000 students, and but they all just wanted to touch you. They all wanted to see the film. They all wanted to see how the films are shot, because there was a tradition of before this tragic conflict started, that every film has to have a song in Kashmir. So Mr. Bachchan and all those films जो थी सब वहाँ पे shoot होती थी. So they used to miss that. So, and they were feeling so, they used to come that now we miss Mr. Bachchan यहाँ पे आते थे, अभी तो कोई भी नहीं आता है, और जो आते हैं वो फिरन और AK-47 दे देते हैं सबको यहाँ पे. So, but once this film was released, their look towards Bollywood has changed a lot.
Yeah.
So it was fun. The problems I faced more after releasing the film over here, not over there while shooting. That was I could handle. It was not. I was not able to handle the reaction of when I was called anti-national and all those things. That was more hurting for me. That was more painful than shooting over there.
I want to ask you these questions, and we've talked about this before, but what is the role of the artist in the current political climate? What is being done to silence us, and how can we work on that?
I think this is the best time for the artist. Because when you are repressed, suppressed by the state, then you have an enemy to react to. Otherwise, the enemy was so useless that even if you say something, they won't react. Now at least you are heard. And, even if you are silent, your silence is also piercing them. So it's a beautiful time for the artists, for the art, that they have to strangulate us so then we can scream. And this is the time to scream. And it's coming next year, 2019, where we can scream and show that how we all artists are feeling. And now it's up to the masses and the common people to side with the artist or the oppressor. We'll see that in next year.
And it's through watching films like this and listening to readings and so on that we can really get to the heart of why we have the right to do this and why we should be doing this. And Heather, for those of you who have seen it and those of you who haven't, it's really a film about chutzpah. And I think that's what we're talking about here, isn't it?
Yeah, the chutzpah is going, the chutzpah, which it's actually called chutzpah, but I thought that chutzpah will be more, it'll have more connotations. So the chutzpah is happening for past 4 years now. Right. It's a sheer chutzpah, what is happening. That when the Supreme Court says the film should be released and the film is not released, if this is not chutzpah, then what this is?
That's our role as artists, isn't it? It's our role as audiences, and it's our role as voters to have that kind of chutzpah. And what it gives us is this knowledge that everything that we do matters now, but will it matter in future? And on that note, I want to cue up our next clip, which is one of my favorite clips in all of the Shakespeare translations and adaptations I've seen. And it's also from Heather.
अरे आओ ना कि जहाँ गई जहाँ गया सो जाओ अरे आओ ना कि थक गई है जिंदगी सो जाओ न शाम न सवेरा अंधेरा ही अंधेरा न शाम न सवेरा अंधेरा ही अंधेरा है रूहों का बसेरा सो जाओ अरे आओ ना छोटा ना बड़ा कोई लंबा है ना बोना है खबरों के दड़बों में लंबी नींद सोना है न बिस्तर है न बोरी न पान न गिलोरी फरिश्तों की लोरी सो जाओ अरे आओ ना अरे आओ ना
अरे हैदर बेटा कहाँ थे?
जनाब तुम्हारा ही इंतजार हो रहा है सवेरे से
चलो अपनी कब्र खोदो और सो जाओ।
दादू, ये सारी कौड़ी हंसती क्यों रहती है?
तेरी तो रोती हुई मिलेगी, चुपचाप रोटी खा।
क्योंकि मर के ही पता चलता है कि जिंदा थे तो जिए नहीं और मर के भी बचे नहीं। है समझ? जिस्म गल के मिट्टी बन जाता है और मिट्टी से बनते हैं घड़े, सुराही, खिलौने। सिकंदर हो या अकबर, हिटलर हो या गांधी, सब मिट्टी में मिल जाते हैं। हो सकता है जिस कप में तेरे दादू कहवा पी रहे हो ना, सिकंदर की मिट्टी का बना हो। जीती होगी दुनिया कभी, लेकिन आज तो कब्रिस्तान में कहवा पिलाता घूम रहा है।
Now, of course, this is the famous scene from Hamlet in the graveyard, where we are reminded that no matter how high we are or how low we are, we're all going to end up in the same way. How did you come up with this idea of these gravediggers in the snow and that beautiful visual pun where they're all lying in there, and then Heather comes along as if from the dead, and they say to him, "Where have you been? Come and join us."
Yeah, because it was written by Shakespeare, it was in Hamlet, and it was lying there. And I didn't want to lose out on this, a great opportunity to make a song about celebrating death. I mean, we all mourn death. I got a chance to celebrate death. And death is it's so beautiful. This is the only certain thing. And when it's certain when you are born, the one thing will happen to you, that you will die. So, and when you see a funeral, you always think someone else is going to die, that you are not going to die. So this was beauty of it, and otherwise you'd never get a chance. And I am a music composer first, and I thought that it will be a great opportunity for me. I'll never get a chance again to make a song on grave diggers, and having fun of death, celebrating death. And when I look at this khopdi, so however beautiful we may look from outside, inside we are like that. So whenever I look at a beautiful woman, so I think about it.
So there we have it. The real revolution in Shakespeare and in our work has to do with this core that eventually all of this shall pass. We are nearly at the time when we're going to open up for questions, so I hope that you're ready. And I would just like to, before I do, thank you so much for the lovely revelations that you've given us about your work.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you for the lovely book, and everyone should buy and read it.
So I would ask you to please keep your questions short and make sure they're also questions. And we would like to take we have some roving mics. If you would stand up and put your hand up, then I'll be able to see you. Yes, lady here in the pink kameez. Just wait for the mic, it's coming.
My name is Pranal. My question is, time and again, Shakespeare has been adopted in international formats in the same way it has been written. So what exactly has inspired you to present it in a colloquial format?
Yeah, because through the stories, through the film, we talk about our contemporary times. So as it is, the Shakespeare plays were for the Victorian that time, and that's not even our language. But his stories are so timeless, and they are not bound by the boundaries. So they're simple human conflicts. You can adapt them to any time, any country, any race, any culture. So that's why, and initially when I was doing Macbeth, I didn't know about it. But later, once I did complete Makbul, then I realized that, the responsibility is now more. I thought that nobody will take care of this. Nobody will take notice of this. But yeah, so that's the case. And I think Hamlet in Kashmir was a very good setting for that's the best setting I have done so far in my trilogies.
Am I right in thinking that Heather, out of the 3 films, is your favorite?
Yeah, Heather is my favorite. I think what I could achieve as a storyteller and as a filmmaker, it all came together. In Makbul, I was still trying to find the filmmaker inside me. In Omkara, there was a flamboyance of a filmmaker. And in Heather, they both settled down. Where I settled down, I calmed down as a filmmaker, and I matured as a writer.
Thank you. Next question. Let's have someone at the back. Okay, we'll have someone at the front instead. So you've obviously been waiting.
It's working? Oh,
yeah.
yes. Good day, sir. So when I read Macbeth, I found that in the play it was his ambition which wanted him, propelled him to be the king. But when I saw the movie, it was more of his love for Tabu, and you just said that death is beautiful. So I just wanted to ask that, according to you, is love more tragic than ambition?
Love is more tragic than ambition. No, I think ambition is a tragedy you don't even come to know about. Love, at least you know the pain, and your ambition you will never know. It's a greed.
Yes.
नमस्ते सर। सर मैं आपकी फिल्मों में अक्सर देखते हैं कि खूब सारी लो लाइट कंडीशंस रहती हैं वहाँ पे, और वो देखने में बहुत अच्छी भी लगती हैं, जिनका कि दूसरी फिल्मों में अभाव देखने को मिलता है। आपके फ़ैन हैं और आपसे जानना चाहते हैं कि इसके पीछे क्या कारण है कि ये आप इस हिस्से को इतना समृद्ध रखते हैं, उसके बारे में, और इतना साहित्य और वो जो क्रिएशन वो भी बहुत अच्छा दिखता है। ये प्रश्न रहता है कई सालों से, और अब आप सामने हैं। थैंक यू।
मुझे लगता है कि वो डार्कनेस से मुझे बहुत मोहब्बत है। And I'll say it in English so everybody can who don't know that even in the daily life I hate tube lights. I just don't like the tube lights looking at me. They pierce me. Even the bulb. So I really like the lamps. I don't like the straight light. I don't like the flat light. So that's why the darkness, it creates a magic, because you see half, you imagine half. So that's why I love darkness. That's why it's always there.
But there's also something very playful about your work, even though you have that sense of darkness. Is that really the balancing force, that appreciation for absurdity, for the jokes?
Yeah, because I don't take it seriously. Yeah, that's the reason. Because I don't take darkness and tragedy seriously. Because there's no point. It's going to happen to you in any case. What's the point? And that's why I love dark humor. I love black humor. Whenever it's very stupid of me also, a little insensitive. But whenever I go to somebody's death and the way someone cries, sometimes it's very funny, and you have to hold on to your laughter. But obviously their pain and their crying is very genuine. But yeah, it makes you laugh.
There's something buckish about that. Yes, gentleman in the side on the right, yeah.
Mr. Bhardwaj, you don't need to be told, but you're absolutely brilliant. Just unbelievably brilliant. I have a question. You made another film called Matru Ki Bijli Ka Mandola. And that was also on social revolution of a very different kind against land grabbers. I found that the treatment of that film was very different from Maqbool or Haider. When you're making films adapted from Shakespeare, you used a different technique, although they're all very different. But Matru was completely quirky and yet had a very strong social message. What was going through your mind as a filmmaker when you took up that project? The way the industry is industrialist, and the farmers are being strangulated, and we are losing on this concrete, which is, and we even in the modern architect, in general in our cities, we are so ugly. We are so ugly. Even the malls we make, they are so ugly. So this all was, going inside me, and the way the farmers are being fooled, and what is happening, and what has been happening to the farmers by the industry and by the wealth, and the rich is becoming richer and the poor is becoming poorer, and that divide is going on, and the kind of paradox we see, like in Mumbai, to a 27-story building, there's a slum next to it, and I feel that we can't have revolution in this country, otherwise it should have happened. The kind of paradox and the disparity we have in our society. But again, the religion has been playing a very strong role in this, where they make you feel that आपके पिछले जन्म के कर्म हैं, of your past lives, so you don't rebel. It's a very good, deep planted thought by religion that we don't rebel, that we don't bring a revolution, because whatever is happening to you, you are poor because it's your past life's karma. So this is what we have been fed with when we are born, and this has been happening for centuries. So all those things are going, and why? Because the equality is what I look for. You know, I feel bad when it's because I am, you know, by chance I am in a family where I could get education and I could read Shakespeare, and I'm sitting over here. Everyone should get at least the chance to you know, be educated well, and you know, then it's your talent and whatever it is. So all those things were going on, and again, it was such a deep, painful thing. I didn't want to say it in pain. I wanted to say it through the Pink Buffalo, the guy who is, and it was Brecht's play. It was inspired by Brecht's play, Mr. Puntala and his man Matti. So the premise comes from there. So all that was happening inside me, and I wanted to be very quirky about it, not again very serious about it. The moment you become serious about the serious issue, you know, it ruins everything. You have to be very funny about it.
Those are some of the themes in the book as well. We had a lot of questions, but I'm going to take it all the way to the back, please. Can you turn around? Can you stand up so I can see you? Lady with the pink jumper. Yep.
Lovely session, ma'am and sir. So my question to you is that in Heather and Rangoon and all these movies, you know, there have been some scenes that they've been so well written and the actors have done it so well that does it even scare you that, you know, that then since there's this scene in Heather where KK Mehta is praying and Shahid says, "Tu dua mein tha, isliye nahi mara, tu gunah mein hoga to marunga." So are you scared at times that scenes like these, the people will not be able to resonate with it and they won't get it as a filmmaker?
Yeah, most of them don't get it. That's why my films don't do business.
Oh, but they were so lovely.
Most of them, yeah. So some people who love me, not love me, but they love what I love. You know, the aesthetics of the subtlety. I love that, and I think we all are in this, under this one tent, that we are looking for that love for aesthetics and subtlety. And unfortunately, the masses is not made for that, and I understand that. I'm very happy that I'm able to make the films I want to make.
I think you're right. You know, I think as filmmakers and writers, what we have to do is we just have to trust the reader and trust the audience that, you know, it's fine to adapt Shakespeare, you can find correlations for the plot, but under the surface, what you're trying to capture is the nuances of the language and those deeper themes that come out. And if you just do it and put it out there in a way that finds an audience in an emotional level, the rest of it will just follow, won't it? Okay, next question. We sit at the back, purple jumper, right there.
Mr. Bhardwaj, I had a question. Are there any other Shakespearean plays that are your eyes set upon to adapt to film? Perhaps a comedy?
Yeah, I want to do a trilogy of comedy, but still I'm not able to find the right setting. His plays are so brilliant that it doesn't take me time to write a script on or to shoot them. What I take time to find a right setting for that. And in my culture, in my life, in the life around me, in our politics. So I'm looking for that kind of setting which excites me, but definitely I'll be doing his comedies now.
Watch this space. Yeah, we're going to go this side, please. Stripy jumper over here. Can you pass the mic? This guy.
Good noon, sir. It's just shaking. I'm really big fan of yours, and I'm just sorry. Before you said you are a music composer first, and then you are a director, and I'm really fond of your voice. So can I hear 2 lines from Choda Hai Wo Galiyan?
जहाँ तेरे पैरों के कंवल गिरा करते थे, हंसे तो दो गालों में भंवर बड़ा करते थे, तेरी कमर के बल पे नदी मुड़ा करती थी, हंसी तेरी सुन सुन के फसल पका करती थी, छोड़ आए हम वो गलियां, छोड़ आए हम वो गलियां.
I think you deserve a round of applause for asking the question. Thank you. Okay, so there is a gentleman behind her, just over here, who's waiting also. Standing there. Right?
Good afternoon, sir. So your films and ma'am, your writing have a quality of being very subjective, very ethereal, much like poetry itself. For example, Heather bleeds with symbolism, and the scene you narrated from your novel, it also had some very starking contrast. So how do you translate those elements into visual poetry?
Yeah, because this is their cinema is such a beautiful medium, is the combination of all fine arts, painting, poetry, music, photography. So that's why I became a filmmaker, to find those parallels or those symbols which are there and how to find them in visual poetry. So yeah, I don't know how it happens, but it happens.
I think for me, it's to do with the senses and using all of your senses to try to get the right word onto the page. And language is all we have to express ourselves. I want to break language. I want to find ways for different languages to break each other up and have a dialogue on the page with each other. And that takes a lot of drafts to find words and to make new words. And that's the way that poetry inspires me. Thank you.
I think we should take it to
Oh, this side? Okay, yeah. Sitting in the sun over here, that's kind of...
हेलो सर, नमस्कार. बहुत सारे सवाल थे मेरे जो वहाँ पूरे हो गए. जैसे मैं जानना चाह रहा था कि आपकी फेवरेट फिल्म कौन सी है. आपने बताया हैदर है. हमारे यहाँ लड़ाइयाँ चलती थी, मुझे मकबूल कम पसंद है और मेरे सारे रूममेट्स को बहुत पसंद थी. मैं आपसे जो पूछना चाहता हूँ वो ये है कि जैसे आप शेक्सपियर से इंस्पायर्ड हैं, वैसे हमारे यहाँ भी एक बहुत बड़ा कल्चर रहा है, लिटरेचर का कल्चर जो है, और प्लेस का जो कल्चर है, संस्कृत प्लेस का भी कल्चर है. तो कोई इंडियन प्ले राइटर या कोई इंडियन माइथोलॉजिकल प्लेस थे, या हमारे यहाँ बहुत प्ले का कल्चर है, तो आपको कोई राइटर इंस्पायर करता है क्या? उस तरफ भी एक सीरीज़ देखने को मिलेगी, जैसे बहुत बड़ा ग्राउंड है वहाँ पर भी.
Okay, so the question is, Shakespeare is very inspiring, but aren't there any Hindi or other poets and writers that Vishal might make a film or use in his work? But he actually does that quite a lot. Do you want to tell us a bit about the influence?
Yeah, of course, I want to do that, like Munshi Premchand. Or I am so much inspired by his work. I want to make शरद जोशी साहब, उनका जो satire है, एक गधे की आत्मकथा, is one of my, उनका एक और एक खूबसूरत है. And of course, I take Ruskin Bond as Indian. He is more Indian than Indians. And I have made 2 films on his stories. One is Blue Umbrella and other is Saat Khoon Maaf. So I have worked on, though his name is something Bond, but he is not that Bond. His skin is, yeah, he is Indian. But I really want to explore that also.
Okay, we have time for one more question. So I think we are going to go right over here to the back in the red scarf. Make it a good one. No pressure.
Hello. Morning, sir. I have been studying philosophy in Sanskrit, so I wanted to ask you just about your mentality.
like the Indian philosophies. There are 6 kind of Indian philosophies mainly, and they've been just telling that whatever you see in the real world is something Brahm, and the reality is something different. And again, the karma philosophy is the main part of what they have been thinking through. So according whatever you have been through and while making the films, like what role does the karma philosophy, like the wishes we wish and the dream we see is something different, and what the reality of the world is something different. We really wish something good to happen, but if the karma philosophy really says that everything happening good is not, like, it is not possible in this sansar, what they say. Like there are some people gonna be happy, there are some people gonna be like unhappy, and they have to really face what the karma philosophy is going to fruit you. So what, like, all of
What's your question?
like the question is like, what role does the karma philosophy, the philosophy plays in your mind while making films?
I think as far as karma is concerned, that Krishn's lines is the best. That karm karo aur phal ki ichha mat karo. The problem is when we think of that fruit, the phal ki jo hum ichha karte hain, that's the problem. That's where the happiness or unhappiness comes from. Because we are wanting something, we are trying to achieve something. If we are doing it for the fun of it, then the question of pain or happiness doesn't come. If you don't look for happiness, the unhappiness will fade away on its own.
And I think we should let Shakespeare have the last word and not forget that all the world's a stage and the people on it are merely players. And I would like to thank Vishal and you for being such a fantastic